If you want honesty to the umpteenth degree, let me introduce you to Kevin Saunders. Coach Saunders has never had a problem being honest. In this episode, Mr. Honesty, Coach Saunders talks about Mickey Crouch, talks about his time at Gretna, talks about downtime in between the end of school and games, and his first game when he coached at William Campbell High School as the head coach. It's Kevin Saunders right here on the Sports Buffet podcast. You've used the term freak quite a bit, and to me, from everything I heard, because I never saw him, Danny Davis was a freak of nature as well.
Yes, he could pick up a baseball and he could do anything. Like Elmer Holmes could pick up a basketball and dunk it straight up off the floor. To me, when they're freaks, they can do anything.
And a lot of people, it seemed like, I didn't mean to cut you off, but a lot of people weren't labeled as freaks back then, because if you were really athletic, you were the unicorn of the group. Nowadays, you know, what gets me is the tight ends are pretty much at the pro level, at least an extra receiver. They don't put the hand down and block as much as, you know, a John Mackey or so forth when we go back in the day. So when we say a freak of nature, that's obviously not an insult, but they weren't growing on trees back then.
No, and they still aren't. I mean, nowadays they call them dogs. I mean, I was fortunate enough down here to get to coach Trey Pinckney, who was the 7A Defensive Player of the Year 2 years in a row. He had over 20-some sacks his junior year, was recruited by everybody, goes junior college, was an All-American at Hutchinson. He was at Hutchinson, was an All-American there, had offers to a lot of places, go to Coastal Carolina, played for Chadwell, had a good career there and finished up at Southern Miss. You know, he had that extra year and he finished up there. He was what you'd call a dog. He was a guy. See, Elmer couldn't practice. We couldn't let Elmer practice defense against anybody in practice because he was just that much better than everybody, and we never could get a look. And then when he was on offense, he just ran over everybody. And Danny Davis was the same way when he was playing. And Danny Davis was a great baseball player.
Yeah, I've heard there's not really anything Danny couldn't do, and it sounds like there's not much Elmer couldn't do either.
No, those guys they could do anything. But when you, like down here in Georgia, there's just so many more of them on teams. Everybody's got dogs on their team, everybody. And it's just how you utilize them and how many of them you got. I mean, you go to the year that Roswell went to the state finals, we had to play them in the first round. They had 9 Division I players starting on defense. And I'm not talking, you know, I don't mean anything disparagingly, but these guys were going to Michigan State, North Carolina, Auburn, Alabama. I mean, all on one team. And they get to the state championship and play Grayson and lose. And the reason they lose is Grayson's got just as many as they do. And I mean, that's nothing it's just so many more people here, and these kids, the way that football is done down here. I mean, there's indoor practice facilities for high schools. The stadiums are incredible. That's what they do. They just play football.
You once told me you were called Little Mickey in reference to Mickey Crouch.
Yeah, everybody, when I was coaching at William Campbell, they would call me Little Mickey because one is me and Mickey were really good friends. And we could get the kids that nobody could say that they would play for them or they bad attitudes or they just weren't very good football players. Mickey and myself could get them to play and do the right things. And watching when Mickey coached and Bo Henson, 2 guys that I really paid attention to, how they could relate to the players. And it's about building relationships. I think that's where most people don't understand about coaching and stuff, is the relationships they had with their players.
I think everybody thought of Mickey Crouch from a general perspective as, I don't want to say grumpy, but he's a different bird.
Yes.
Mickey would put the old school in old school without a doubt. I don't know if people like Mickey could survive nowadays, and I say that
No.
respectfully.
No.
What's the biggest thing that people did not know about Coach Crouch that he doesn't get credit for, the spotlight put on?
One, he's a really good football coach, and two, he was funny as hell. He was really funny. I mean, he was great to be around. I had a blast with him. Um, I'll give you one, and this is a great one. We were in the all district meeting, and Mickey comes in there, and that's the year Alta Vista and Richard Trent wouldn't come back out and play them second half. And Mickey goes, guys, I just want to let you know that my stats aren't as good as everybody. We only got to play 9.5 games. And that's how we started the meeting. And I was just dying laughing. So he comes over and sits beside me, and the table's kind of divided. It was quite humorous. It was a good meeting. I mean, it really was. You had Bob Christmas in there, and Mark Lynchburg, and myself. I believe Paul Wheeler was in there. I mean, there were dudes in the coaching at that time during the Seminole.
Well, old school Seminole is there was no such thing as non-district games. Week 1 was district, and Week
Correct.
10 was.
Yeah, I had to open up with Jefferson Forest
I remember
when I was
because
at
I was
William
there.
Campbell.
I was there
Yeah,
several times.
All 240 kids in that school.
William Campbell, your first gig, right? Head coaching wise?
Yes.
Do you remember your first game?
Yeah, it was against Bob and Jefferson Forest. And the year before, they beat them 89-0.
What was your mentality going in?
Well, I told Bob before the game if he started doing that, running it up on them, I would take my ball and leave. I parked the bus right behind the bench and got up and left. And then games 21-24 going into the fourth quarter. And we're playing with them. I knew right then, and we were playing with all sophomores.
Who's on that William Campbell team then?
Three. James Younger,
Okay.
Robbie Mason, J.P. Perrier. We were good, and we were going to be really good. We were, and the next year we got it rolling really good. I think we went 8-2, 9-1 the next year. Lost to Russburg Paul's last year, and we beat them over there first round of the playoffs. And Dr. Nolly met me after the game, gave me a cigar as we're walking off the field.
I hope that cigar is gone now.
It is. It is. I like my cigars, but that was a great night because we did some things, that year that a small school playing. We beat Amherst. No, we lost Amherst that year, or did we beat them? I don't remember. But that was the year I think they went to the finals, Amherst. So we were good, and we could play with those guys.
What was the Kevin Saunders pep talk like back then? Did you preach the fact of, hey, we're the little guy?
Yes, I'm not a big I don't do the big rah-rah speeches very often because I just don't think, my thing is they're kids. If they can't get excited to play a game, then, I haven't done a very good job preparing them the week. I'll give them some speech sometimes, and I'll talk about what we need to do to accomplish the win. I'm not a big win one for the Gipper guy. I think some of the kids like that because I don't preach all this stuff that, I just want them to think they can win. And I want to play with a chip on their shoulder that they can do it. And it doesn't matter what size school you are. You just got to come out there and it's like I told the kids if we played at the University of Tennessee, I'd play them out in the street in broken glass and barbed wire barefoot if they wanted to. That's the mentality I want the kids to get to. is they just are going to be tougher than who they play. And if we do that, it'll give us a chance to win. That's all I can ask them.
Well, in my eyes, you have another mentality, and I can't say that I think Kevin Saunders is really nervous before a game.
No.
Have you ever
Not
been
at
nervous before a game?
My first one I was with Bob Christmas, and then I was probably I was nervous before the Gate City. No, the Coast Goochland and us in the state championship game when I was in Gretna. I felt like we would win, but I was nervous because they had a great kicker and they had a great punter, and I just thought field position was going to be huge, and that game made me a little nervous. Other than that, I'm excited to be there. My whole thing is on Fridays, I just want to watch them play. My job's Monday through Thursday.
Right.
They're to take care of it on Friday. I don't believe in going out there and out coaching somebody. I'm not the guy I don't tell people I'm going to out coach you or we're going to come up with something fantastic and all this. We're going to play good football, and we're going to play sound football, and the kids are going to play hard, and they're going to fly around, and they're going to do what they're coached to do, and that's what's fun about it. I remember when we beat Powell Valley when I was at J.J. Kelly, stopped the state's longest winning streak there. And I think Phil had run 4 or 5 state championships in a row, and they were picked to beat us 90-0. And they come over there, and Phil ends up being a good friend of mine over the time. But we get over there before the game and stuff, and I'm talking to him, and I said, Phil, I got a question to ask you. Phil loves talking football, just loves talking football. So he gets his hands on his hips, and he's all fired up to answer this question. And I look at him and go, how do you get your uniform so white? And it just totally just flipped him out. I mean, he thought I was going to come out. That's all I said to him. And he just like, what do you mean? He thought I was going to get some philosophy or something. And that's it.
Was that a sight game on your
Stuff
part?
like that. Yeah, a little bit. But it's also, I'm pretty loose before a game. I get loose when I don't like the time between school being out until we warm up. I can't stand it. I don't like idle time. I can't stand it. It's very structured for me now with how we do things, so it's a lot better. But I remember years ago there'd be downtime, and I just couldn't stand it. And I know the kids couldn't have liked it, and I just couldn't stand it. So that was the most uptight I was that time there.
What was the difference in downtime then as opposed to now?
Now I got more technology, more meetings, more time before the game to go over stuff with the kids, the coaches. Everything's very structured. You have everything from what time you go to the bathrooms, as your bathroom breaks, where you're supposed to be, the players, where the coaches are supposed to be, what time. Everything is detailed out to the T of where they're supposed to be. So that was another thing Coach Lynchburg was really good at. He was so detail oriented in his practice schedules. His practice schedules sometimes were like 8 pages long, which is a little bit much, but he was so detail oriented as far as putting things in the practice plan so everybody knew what they were doing.
What were the kids doing back then before there was the technology there is now? I mean, were they just sleeping?
Just sitting and sleeping.
Right.
And I mean, that's what they did. And you sometimes you have music, so you had music on, but other times it just wasn't a lot. Nowadays I take their phones up at 4:00, so they're not allowed to have their cell phones after 4:00
now.
So
because then there was no such thing.
No such thing, cell phones, and you find out that the cell phones can become a distraction.
Yep.
And kids in there dancing, doing TikTok and stuff like that. Now, probably 7-8 years ago, when I was at Gretna, they had their cell phones, and I hated it. and I just never thought about taking them up. But when I come to Georgia, that I started doing that with my teams and became more detail oriented before a game, have a walkthrough before a game, uh, hydration and things like that, as far as getting them physically ready to play, plus mentally. You got to lock them in. I truly believe, nowadays you got to learn to train them a certain way during the week. I hated conditioning when I played. I'm not a big fan of it when I coach. I think I can coach them into shape because football is an anaerobic activity. Yeah, I don't need to go out there and run 110s with the lineman because, linemen don't need to run 100 yards. If he can run 100 yards, then, maybe we should give him the ball. But I'm not going to do those things with the kids. And plus, nowadays, with all the technology, I do a lot of GPS stuff called with the Titans from Huddle, where you can hear how much they run during the week and how much they run during practice, to where you can gear practice down and cut down on some of the running or some of the activities so their legs aren't dead when you get to Friday. I think that's one of the things that I've always done with my team, and it cuts down on injuries. And so, plus I hit in practice. A lot of people thud. Nowadays, kids don't know how to fall. So we're going to tackle in practice. We do full tackle in practice. We'll hit you at your legs and everything because you're going to do it in a game. So Monday and Tuesday are my hard days. I only go really hard Mondays and Tuesdays. And then Wednesday and Thursday, it's geared back a little bit and ready to play on Fridays.
You brought up an interesting thing. You brought up huddle. And I remember back in the day, and I'll use that back in the day term a lot. I remember back in the day, coaches were traveling to like a Shoney's or a midpoint in between because you got the last two VHS game films. That was
No
it.
doubt.
That was it.
Yep.
And now it seems like technology has made things a lot easier. Go ahead.
Yeah, you can get 10 games on a team. We can go into the 10th game this year and had nine game films, and we would break them down. So it makes it easier that way. Used to call around and get extra film. You'd have to call coach here, call coach there, call coach that didn't like a coach, so he would give you film on them, all that stuff, and then you'd have to travel to 2 hours to exchange film, and it'd be, 2 VHS tapes. And then when you get home, the tape would be just crap because it was so far away you couldn't see it, or they had recorded over another game, and it was just terrible stuff. And nowadays, with the way offenses and defenses are, everybody pretty much runs the same thing. Everybody's in spread. You can only run so many spread formations and so many things out of spread. But back when I was coaching, you had wishbone, you had veer, you had single wing, you had wing T, you had I, you had T formation, you had spread, you had all these formations that you had to prepare for each week. Nowadays, you just got one, everybody kind of runs the spread. So you got inside zone power. There's only so many plays you can run. And it makes the preparation a lot easier. Huddle makes it a lot easier because you've got so many films you can watch. So, it's good. Back then, you had Bob Christmas running wishbone. You had, Mark running the I, Paul Wheeler running the wing T, and Mickey running the wing T. Then you had, Alta Vista doing what they were doing. Everything was just different. You had the game plan different each week. Now the kids know majority of the time where they're going to line up to this formation, and it starts in the summer because you do all the 7-on-7 and everybody's trips are empty, or 2x2 or 21 personnel, however personnel grouping you want to do it, and the kids got an idea what they're supposed to do. So that stuff's different.